A couple of weeks ago now, I started this little series in KSP where I do some random shenanigans with Kerbals, sending them into far-fetched planets to recover vital science points to use in our tech tree to get more science parts so that we can go even further. Last time we went to Minmus and made a little detour to the Mun and we came back, but this time we're going to do something a little closer to home. We're going to build a space station, so we'll get right into making the first part. This first part is a sort of tug module with two little engines on the end. So we didn't have any RCS thrusters at this point, so it's going to be quite difficult to maneuver and dock our first part that we want to dock. But we'll solve that problem later. For now, we just have a lander can that's going to be stacked on top of a service bay, and that's encompassing a little liquid fuel tank. The liquid fuel tank that's inside the service bay is only really going to serve as a little place to hold energy. They're called batteries. So the rechargeable batteries will be able to go on the liquid fuel tank here, and they're powered by the solar panels that can be extended from within the built-in cargo part of this lander can that I'm using. And after adding a communitron, I use a smaller communitron because that was a bit overkill for our use case, and we only use one as well. We can just add some more fuel tanks and two Terrier engines. I think that's the engine we use. That's pretty much it. Once we build a kind of booster that can launch this into orbit, we're completely fine. So here's a little Jeb livery, and we're also going to put some text on top saying keep smiling and don't die. A little morbid, but I think the the Kerbinauts that we ended up putting on this will appreciate our message to them. Actually, we weren't meant to put any Kerbals on this mission, but I ended up putting our main Kerbals on it, so we had to solve that problem later as well. This was a pretty smooth launch. We went straight up and out of Kerbin's atmosphere, and we were able to get straight into orbit. We staged the solid rocket boosters that basically carried the rocket by themselves. And as our apoapsis raises, we can see some beautiful clouds, different sights. We can see the curvature of Kerbin, and our rocket explodes as we stage, but I was able to recover it and get back straight and keep burning. These engines on the bottom of this stage were sufficient and they gave me a great boost, so I only had to do a very small burn, even though my apoapsis is still... well, my apoapsis is decent, but my periapsis is horrendous. But because this part of it is quite small, it only takes a tiny bit of burning with these engines. Now, it was once that I got into orbit, I realized that I didn't have any RCS thrusters on this, so it was basically a flying brick that wasn't very easily maneuvered for docking procedures. But that was alright, because my next thing that I was going to launch was an RCS block. By me saying that I don't have any RCS thrusters, I don't mean that I just don't have any RCS thrusters on this craft specifically. I don't have them unlocked yet. So to garner a bit of science points, we fly this little interesting science fair looking rocket, and we just give it a little launch and go over into the grasslands here, and we get a small bit of science. That's enough to get our RCS, because we were only like 5 or so points off. So once this safely lands, we are ready to build our next module on the space station. While I'm waiting for this to land here, I'm going to tell you to like and subscribe, comment below what do you want me to do next. Like, I'm doing these KSP playthroughs, but I think I'm gonna give it a break for the next video, and instead I'm going to make maybe a Subnautica video, Subnautica 2. I've been loving that game, it's a great game. It like just came out. Can't wait for the update that's gonna add like what is it adding? It's adding a new biome, and I think it's doing something with the Collector Leviathan biome. But it's a really great game. If you haven't got it, definitely buy it. Or if you haven't played the first game, try playing that as well first. That one was great as well. This is probably almost rivaling it though, even its early access. After my little rant here, I'm getting back to what we're actually playing right now, which is Kerbal's space program. We got a rendezvous with our first craft, and it was a bit tedious to get this docking because I only had RCS on the end of the craft. The other craft was fine because it just had to point at it, but here we go. We get docked and we can set away our aft. Is aft back or the front? I don't know. Tell me that, because I'm not bothered to look it up. Believe it or not, this is my 4th time trying to record this section, starting here of the commentary, because I accidentally muted my mic. Yeah, so I had to go back. Like the first time I went back, I was like, huh, why isn't there any speech here? And then I went back again, I was like, huh, why isn't there any speech here? And then I looked at the bottom of my mic and it was muted. So I went off again and I was like, huh, yeah, I accidentally muted my mic again after unmuting it. Anyways, here's the last part of the space station that we are going to connect. It's kind of a science module stacked beneath a D-junction type part. That's a mod part there. It's part of some space station mod, but the T-junction's going to allow us to build our space station outwards with those docking ports that are on the side there. So once we have our launch vehicle made, then we can launch once again through the clouds to reach not very new boundaries. To give my launch vehicle a bit of an extra oomph, I have these solid rocket boosters. They're part of a mod. It's like the procedural parts mod. They're the procedural solid rocket boosters, I think, but they are very powerful. Honestly, I think they're a bit too overpowered. I might not use them next episode because they can fire for like a long time, but they also have a really high thrust to weight ratio, so we might just leave them out of the equation for next time. There we staged the non-solid rocket boosters, which exploded in a rather dramatic fashion. So there was also this little graphical glitch here where there were like vapor cones just forming out of thin air. Well, there isn't really air in the vacuum, but they were also in the vacuum somehow. So vapor cones in the vacuum, I don't really know how this happened. I think it may have actually been because of the way I had the engines clipped into each other. If anyone else has encountered this, let me know, and maybe let me know how to avoid this in the future, because it is quite annoying. Luckily this isn't on a part of the craft that would permanently stay, so it would be staged quite soon. So now we've got our rendezvous again. It was just I did want to keep the liquid fuel tanks that were there on, because they still had a good amount of fuel that I could transfer to refuel the station, but they were just too heavy and cumbersome to have behind me, so I just staged them and docked onto the rest. I lined up my solar panels as well, so that we look nice and nice. I think I used cheats here as well to get rid of that piece of debris behind me that was just annoying me. And we get a beautiful shot of our finished space station. Well, it's not really finished, there will be more parts added in the future, but for now this is our finished space station. But this is not the end. We still have more work in front of us. First off, we have to refuel this place. Yes. So if whoever was on the EVA there decides to get out back in, come on, you can take your time, because you're not a scientist, Kerbal, anyways. You're not able to actually do the experiments outside. So once they're all back in, we can just do a couple science experiments from inside the craft. And now I didn't put in any footage of actually building the refueling machine, the flying rocket, that's what it's called. But here's some quick B-roll of it launching and docking with the station to refuel. Yeah, it was a bit of an odd docking, because I should have added more RCS onto this part of it, because it was just really heavy, because there's a lot of fuel on board. But after some fine-tuning, I was able to dock and refuel. I actually didn't know how to refuel before making this video, so it taught me something at least. I don't know if this is actually the most efficient way to refuel, but it was the only way I found, so for now we're doing that. And once we finish, we only have two things. I made more work for myself to do. One thing left to do, and that is to save the Kerbals that we stranded in Kerbin orbit. So I made a quick, I called it the Saver Mark 1, and I launched it straight up with no worries, forgetting that I didn't take out the Kerbals that I had in there, well, that the game automatically put in there, so I launched them straight up into space. This was disastrous though, because I forgot to put a parachute on the Saver Mark 1, so when I tried to deorbit them, it was disastrous and everyone died, as you can see here. I tried to wiggle it around a bit, but nothing could save them. They were going over 100 meters per second, crashing into the ground. So we made some tweaks. I decided to just put all solid rocket fuel boosters around the outside to get this into orbit nice and easily. And I actually remembered to add some radially mounted parachutes so that we can safely come down to the ground nice and slowly without just exploding, basically. So here you can see this beautiful staging of this side solid fuel boosters, and we can just go propagate and burn until we have a stable orbit around Kerbin. Now this particular launch of the Saver Mark II is aiming to save the crew that I accidentally stranded on the Saver Mark I. I loaded a quick save after I crashed it that time, so that I could actually save the Kerbals and not just kill them, you know, because we don't really want to just kill Kerbals for no reason. So this first time I tried to deorbit it, so I staged it too early, so that was still firing, the engine was still on. Eventually it died out and that crashed, and I tried to find the other part of it that actually had the crew in it, but by the time I managed to get back to that, it had also crashed, so I had to do it again. And every time I kept loading into the save, the way that the crafts were positioned when I loaded in, they like phased through each other and exploded. But this time I actually managed to get them in a way that they don't explode, and we could bring them down safely. Everyone's safe and sound. I lost the footage to me saving the Kerbals that I stranded in the space station, but I'm sure you can deal without that, and that's pretty much the end. So hopefully I make another one of these. I might not, but goodbye.